All right, everyone, welcome back into another Prize Picks video. It is Taco Tuesday. Going to be touching on the top prop bets for Taco Tuesday. Profit day. Let's go ahead and get into it. So I do think I will be trying to come out with these videos a little bit later than I typically would, just because I want the full board. I want those fantasy score prop bets. That is where we have seen the most success. That's why we've had an awesome 2024 thus far, through 2024 thus far. For those that maybe just tune in for Taco Tuesday to take advantage of, kind of the free money that they're throwing at us. Only 2 days thus far in 2024 where the bet of the day picks collectively did not go over 50%. Yesterday, 4 for 6, not a bad day. Obviously, we'll always take that percent hit for bet slip. Hopefully if we do that again today, Taco Tuesday wise, we're going to be doing pretty well. But again, that's rooted in the fantasy score prop bets that we are getting. And we are getting a bunch right now for NBA and a bunch right now for college basketball as well. So that should provide us with some pretty good edges. So I want to go in and get into those. Let's actually start out with college basketball, because that is where we are currently getting our biggest edge. So the best one that we have is going to be Max Abrams for under 29.5 for a fantasy score. We can see that Underdog is a little bit lower, okay, about 0.7 lower on theirs, which, we'll take. The average sportsbook line would set this at 27. The projection data also doesn't like this. So we can see that this is kind of a clear outlier. So it has a strong percent likelihood to hit. By all means, this is seemingly going to be one of our better prop bets. We are getting another good one for Hall for under his assist at 5.5. This one has a strong likelihood to hit as well. But yeah, we're only getting one really good fantasy score prop bet. I do want to caution against that slightly though, because the college basketball prop bets, the fantasy score prop bets, have been running extremely hot recently. There's going to be some bad days here shortly. Them hitting at this insane rate is just not sustainable. I think most people know that, but I always like to just provide that slight caution. Eventually, it's not going to hit. Just looking at the other fantasy score prop bets that we're getting, I want to sort it by prop line difference between Underdog and PrizePicks, see if we're getting any middling opportunities. It's a smaller slate other than like the Saturdays that we've seen bigger edges on, but we are getting some pretty big ones here, guys. So we have some middling opportunities here. So Sheed for over his fantasy score on PrizePicks would be one that you could run out. Okay, and then on Underdog, they're the outlier data point wise. I think that's pretty clear to see, but you could bet the under there. We should never, ever get fantasy score prop bets that are really a 1 difference or higher. And we have, 5 there, where it's a decent prop line difference. If this was not a Taco Tuesday day, I would suggest running out those middling opportunities. And I will probably for these first 4. I'll do a flex slip for PrizePicks with these 4. And I'll do an insured slip on Underdog for a 4 slip bet. Now, typically I don't like to run insured slips on Underdog for 4 slips. I like them to be at least five deep. But for today, given the lines that we're getting, I'm fine with that. And so I might run this out, or this one. These two have a little bit higher percent likelihood to hit. I might run these two out it's going to be this one. It's going to be this one and this one, where the data is actually telling us to bet the over here, where on Underdog, they'd be telling us to bet the under. So that's what I'm going to do there. Let's go and jump into NBA as well. So right now, as it sits for NBA, we are getting 2 decent fantasy score prop bets. And if you guys have been following this channel for quite some time, I really am sick of Jabari Smith Jr. popping up for under fantasy score. He seems to be someone that's always popping up here. And don't get me wrong, it is right a lot of the time, but it's so polarized when it's wrong. It's like so tilted because he'll just go off on a slate, right? So like that's kind of my issue with him, is that when he does get his over, he typically crushes his over. At the same time, when he gets his under, typically the under hits by a massive amount. And now if you guys are wondering why his fantasy score props have not been hitting as much, they are a little bit healthier in terms of the bigs. Tari Eason's still out, but with all the other bigs healthy, he just hasn't been getting as much run. Now against Minnesota, I thought he would get more run, and I think that was the plan, but then he got into foul trouble right away. But yeah, he's had 3 bad games in a row. Only one of those was due to foul trouble. So tough to say whether or not Fred VanVleet being active or inactive is going to help him. Looking at the data, I don't really get a good sense of whether it does or not. To me, it just helps out Jalen Green out a ton, but that's only if the game stays close. And so with those players out, it's actually a 7 7.5 point spread. So not exactly something I'm excited to target game wise. So I could get behind the under fantasy score there. Let's check out Miles Turner in that same exact game, 29.5 for his fantasy score. And so in his last game against Charlotte, which is a great matchup, he only had 35 DraftKings points, which if we look on PrizePicks, that's actually gonna be 35, slightly different calculation there, but that was by far an easy matchup, and he still didn't really crush the over. I mean, he got it pretty handsomely, pretty easily, but for the most part, I think that this is going to be a good prop bet for us. More times than not against Houston, against Sangoon, the under is going to hit. So I'd be fine with betting this under as well. You know, we're getting two decent ones. Again, I don't like to use the lock word, but I wouldn't consider these locks. I would just consider them pretty strong bets that I can get behind, bets that I can agree with the data on. And then for what it's worth, just I want to talk about the per 36 production for Jalen Green with Fred VanVleet off the court. And so he does average 25.3 points per 36, 4.7 rebounds. So just in that, he's at a push, right? You add on 5 assists as well, and he's at the over. And so given the high game total that we have, to me, I do think that this one does have a strong chance to hit, but this is more betting on that game staying close, betting on that 7.5 point spread taking place at the end of the game rather than maybe throughout the whole game. Like if it's a blowout throughout the whole game, he's not going to get that over. So it really just depends on when the blowout on paper happens. But Jalen Green has been playing extremely well for the most part for quite some time, so I'm kind of fine with that one as well. I did just want to take a peek at the other fantasy score prop bets that we are getting. We're not getting a lot. I do just want to call out Brook Lopez. I know he's been a DNP for us the last few slates and really been frustrating in that regard as well. And for what it's worth, Jalen Green, it's weird that the PRA is favored for the over, but his fantasy score is favored for the under. That's because he gets a lot of turnovers, by the way. But looking at Brook Lopez, like he has been someone I've been wanting to attack PRA for the last 2 slates. Now, the issue for today is that it's a tough matchup going against Phoenix. They're one of the more difficult matchups, but I kind of like to look at narratives a little bit. One, he just had the birth of a child, so you do see players kind of tend to have a good game after something like that, the baby narrative, if you will. I can buy into something like that, but really why I like him is because with Doc there, we have seen these veteran players get extended run. He got 36 minutes against Portland, got 34 against Denver, so his minutes seem to be locked in. At the start of the season, we were kind of lucky for him to get consistently over like 32 minutes, and so we can lock him into around 35 minutes per game. I'm kind of fine betting the over there, but again, I get why the data is kind of favoring it more for the under, because that game, more likely than not, is not going to be a good game for Brook Lopez. Then from there, the other prop bets that we're getting, I don't love them too much. Chris Middleton, Giannis, their over fantasy scores are certainly appealing for those same reasons I just mentioned, given the fact that it is going to be a little bit more of a minutes heavy game. Like Chris Middleton, guys, if he is going to continue to get 38, 34 minutes, one, that probably hurts their NBA championship odds there. At the same time, I do think there's a chemistry thing there. I don't mind that. As a Bucks fan, it does get me a little bit worried that he's been someone that's been battling injuries for quite some time. But for our purposes, for props purposes, if we can lock in someone like Chris Middleton getting us 35 minutes per game, where at the start of the season we were lucky to get 30 minutes, that's going to be huge. I don't think the data has exactly caught up just yet. Didn't have a good game shooting in the last game against Dallas. Okay, 1 for 4, 5 for 15. Did sit out on the back end of back-to-back, so he's going to be good to go. So I don't mind that prop, but again, we're betting on the minutes, and he is a point per minute producer. So if he does get 35 fantasy points, he should be able to get over 32.5. Giannis has been going off. I'm kind of fine with those, but the rest of the prop bets that we are getting don't exactly love those. Let's go ahead and take a peek elsewhere. Discrepancies. We'll look at some NHL props, and then I'll give you guys the bet of the day for PrizePicks. And darn it, I shouldn't say darn it, but we got more prop bets here, so I'm going to hit another refresh for NBA, seeing if we get more prop bets that are popping up in there for fantasy score. But discrepancies-wise, not many big ones here. Tennis, League of Legends, not too much there. Let's flip it around, seeing if we're getting any there. No, nothing too much there as well, so not big enough there. Let's go ahead and jump into NHL, which shout out to NHL for putting together a good All-Star weekend. That was the first time I've ever even caught clips of NHL All-Star game. But they're back. So let's see here. And so here we go. We got one that's being favored as a push. Don't exactly love that one. Don't exactly love this one either, given the fact that the projection data is giving it 2.3, but that's a good EV bet. Like, I don't want to go against Vegas. this is seemingly going to be a good EV bet. So we can run this one out. I'd be fine with that, but that's really all we are getting for NHL as well. So with that, let me go and jump back into, I'm probably going to use this one, by the way, but with that, let's go ahead and jump back into the NBA sheet, seeing if we're getting any better fantasy score prop bets, and then I'll give you guys the bet of the day. And so I'm glad I did that refresh because we are getting some better prop bets. So we're going to see Jimmy Butler for over his fantasy score 32. That seems to be extremely low. I can get behind that. That seems like a good prop bet. He is someone that has been basically needing to play more. And with Tyler Hero off the court, he's basically going to be their guy. Arguably speaking, Tyler Hero had been their best player. I know Bam's there, don't get me wrong. But in terms of, I don't even want to say big difference maker in their record, but Jimmy Butler just needs to step up. Let's put it that way. And he has been recently, been a little bit more consistent as well. So we are getting some good prop bets for him. I'm perfectly fine with that. I do want to call out, it does seem like we're getting a little bit of a stacking opportunity as well for the Magic. 3 prop bets where the day is telling us to bet the over. So if you find a correlated bet there, even Wendell Carter as well, 4. So maybe a little bit of a game stack there, just as an FYI for Orlando. But now let's going into the bet of the day. I am going to include Jimmy Butler in there. All right, so looking at the best prop bets that we are getting right now to pair with each taco, both individually, we got Miles Turner for under fantasy score, like I called out, Jabari Smith Jr. for under fantasy score. Those were 2 that were popping up on the data sheet. We also have Jimmy Butler for more fantasy score at 32. I did go with Sheed for over his fantasy score. We saw that massive prop line difference between PrizePicks and Underdog, and I will be doing, and I'll show you guys this real quick as well. I will be running out this middling as well. So Sheed for under fantasy score paired with Tristan Newton as well for under fantasy score. These are 2 that I'm running out together on PrizePicks as a separate slip, not for Taco Tuesday, but given the massive prop line difference that we have on PrizePicks for really both of those 2, but Sheed for sure, I'm fine using that together. It might be a middling. That's really what we're hoping for there, but I do think that on paper, obviously we're getting a pretty big edge there. That being said, the data likes these prop bets better on Underdog. So just as an FY. But yes, from there, Max Abrams for his less than fantasy score, we saw that's a slight edge that we were getting in comparison to all the other props. And then I did just toss this one in there in case any of the other prop bets change. Again, that's kind of the nice thing about fantasy scores. Typically speaking, those lines do not change throughout the day. This one could get bumped because it is a good EV bet, but really I would only use this one to attach to a taco if one of the other prop bets get adjusted. But that is going to be it for the Taco Tuesday video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. If you guys want access to these tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com, available for just $10 a month. Thank you guys for watching. Let's have a good slate, and as always, let's keep cashing.